Test, test. I am going to try to be professional tonight on tonight's live stream because it's who we are. We're calm, we're professional, we hear the facts. I'm going to try to be professional because the level of stupidity that I'm going to be talking about tonight is at such an interstellar level coming out of the United States. Now, I know that interstellar is a relative term when you're talking about government, police, and things like that, because they're interstellarly corrupt and stupid anywhere in the world to a level that is often beyond comprehension. But I think the level of beyond comprehension of today's story is at the next level. So good evening, everybody. Good to see you in there. I don't know why people would think I'm dying. I think we continue to run into this problem where you think YouTube is showing you the channels you subscribe to. I did a video about this. If you do not go look up the channels and find the videos you want to look for, you're not going to see them because I do videos regularly here and I have, well, for as long as I can remember. And the algorithm is giving you what you engage with, which is, well, whatever you see on your feed is not what you subscribe to necessarily. It's what you're actually watching. And what YouTube knows, they can generate revenue. So, hola a todos, buenas noches. And it's good to see a few of you in our live streams. I have been a little bit shy on videos the past couple months because I've just been swamped with other things. And frankly, I just haven't had time. I've tried to do a video here and there and a post here and there. Of course, I still don't have my Facebook because if you watch that video, you know that Facebook, they sold my account off to hackers and I can't seem to find a way to get it back. That happened in December where Facebook employees were selling Facebook accounts out the back door to hackers, and Facebook has done nothing or given no means to get those accounts back. And to be honest, Facebook sucks anyway. It kind of sucks not to be able to share stuff there because I did have a lot of you on there with me. But at the same time, I don't really want to start from zero on Facebook. I mean, I started on Facebook like the year that Facebook started, and it was actually good. And I've watched Facebook get just more and more sucky over the years and just screwing people over and controlling and lying. The past 3 years of trash and fake health couldn't have even happened if it weren't for Facebook. And so hopefully Facebook will run itself into the ground eventually and be replaced by something else. But despite all these other places popping up saying, oh, this is the new social network, it's not, because until there's a platform that everybody wants to be on and uses daily, you don't really have that social aspect. Remember MySpace? That was before Facebook. So anyways, good to see you guys all in there. We got a few of you, so I'm not going to wait too long. It's getting a little bit late. I don't want to wait too long to start the main show because frankly, I think it's pretty fun topic. And I think we need to talk about this whole house tearing down thing. I don't know if you guys have heard about this, but we're going to cover that in the main topic. I don't know what's been going on up north. If you guys are still buried in snow up there, I don't hear a lot from the north. I mean, I do have some family in the north. But here we've been like 90 degrees. It's basically summer in central Mexico right now. It'll actually get cooler. What would normally be considered spring is the summer heat here in this area, at least, and on most of the beaches and things like that, just like an intense heat. So it's been getting probably to 90 Fahrenheit, that is, during the day here. And I know that I've talked to some friends up north that are still buried in snow in the far north. So good luck with that. That's one thing. If I were to make a list of things I don't miss from the U.S., the snow would be right up there on the top, and the icy roads and all of that kind of stuff. So good to see my Afraida neighbors in there. Yeah, Afraida usually didn't get a lot of snow. It'd get cold and we'd have a few months of snow, but usually by this time, what are we in? The first part of April. By April, Afraida's getting pretty nice. But you get up in that North Country in Montana and in Washington toward the Canada border, those kind of areas, and it can still be a little rough. A lot of rough. Yeah, the rain. Well, we don't get a lot of rain. There is a kind of a monsoon season here. where you get strong rainstorms in the evening, and occasionally there's flooding and stuff. But the climate is pretty amazing in general in Mexico in most areas. Not a lot of earthquakes, although those do happen, especially in the south. Very few hurricanes, very few tornadoes. I mean, there's actually, I would say, a lot less natural disaster kind of situations than in the U.S. Plus, most areas, there are a few places in the mountains that get snow, but most areas don't have snow and icy roads. And it's a good thing because the roads are really bad in Mexico, and most people haven't actually learned to drive, I want to say. Like, not officially, they kind of know how to drive, but rules of the road are kind of a sliding scale for a lot of people. You can tell if you go out on Friday and Saturday night that drinking and driving is kind of the norm in Mexico, and you want to be kind of on the lookout. So if you took most of Mexico and mixed icy roads, I mean, I can't even imagine what the roads they have down here if you had black ice, because I think the population would drop by percentage points in a very short period of time. It would be an absolute disaster if they had icy roads down here. But then again, if Seattle gets an inch of snow, everybody goes crazy too. So, you know, it's the world we live in, I guess. But yeah, it's good to see you all on there. And occasionally I like to take photos in the snow. I would like to take the kids to see the snow and the wife to see the snow now and then, just as an experience. But I don't miss living in the snow. I can go Durango gets snow. It's a few states up from me, and it has mountains. I would say Durango is a lot. I've never been through there. My brother has, but it seems to be compared a lot to Colorado in terms of its kind of landscape and weather and stuff like that. Obviously, Colorado is more cold than Durango, but Durango does get snow and stuff in the mountains. And I would like to go up there in the fall one of these times and just see, because the fall color in places like Washington, Idaho, Montana, Utah, places like that, I do miss that a little bit, especially from my photo perspective, because there's just something magical. I hate about fall that you know everything's about to get cold, but I just love about fall that, like, there's just this golden. In most of Mexico, you don't quite get that. Sure, it cools down, but it's not like you have these golden changing leaves everywhere. But if you go to the mountains, Mexico's very diverse, and you can still find it. I won't go on too long because you guys are probably all getting tired too. I think we should go to our main topic. And let me just pull up all my stuff here. Because today's main topic is not going to surprise you. It's probably not going to surprise you, but it is shocking. And I think what it is we're so jaded at this point that almost nothing in the corruption of this sick world that doesn't know how to love its neighbor and act like Christ has become. And it's crazy to see. So I'm going to do this. We'll start the video, and I'll do the main video so that I can cut this out and post our main topic. And let me get my show. Hello, everybody. It's Gavin Seim, and welcome to the Gavin Seim Show. All right, that was the intro. Now let's talk about the main topic. I think if you are living in the world, particularly if you know of the USA, right? You look at like the US police, their absolute ignorance of law, their total incompetence, their insane up here levels. Can you see that on the camera? Of just being pure psychopaths. Even as somebody who now lives down south in Mexico, when you talk to Mexicanos and they're like, yeah, the police up there are just psychopaths. And I'm like, yeah, I know. The police here are corrupt and they want to get some money off you. But the police in the States will literally just kill you just for their ego and just to prove their point. They're absolute psychopaths. And so knowing that, if you know that Blue ISIS in the US is the number one, the police are the number one most violent criminal organization on the numbers, not just some random made it up. Like on the numbers, they're the biggest, the police departments are the biggest robbers. They're the most violent. They put more people in the hospital than any other than any other criminal organization. And so you say, all right, it can't get worse. It can't get stupider than the police. And then what happens? What happens then? Well, then you go to Atlanta. Then you go to Atlanta, Georgia, and you have the city council of Atlanta who goes in and tears down a dude's house after sending warnings to the wrong address. These guys right here, let's look at these guys. Here's the Atlanta City Council. Don't they look ethnic and diverse? Well, guess what? You're only allowed in the club if you're going to play by the club's rules and support the club's games. Now, let's go back to the headline, because on a basic constitutional level, right, a man cannot be deprived of his life, liberty, and property without due process of law. The right to a trial by jury. All of these things in the Bill of Rights. The Fourth Amendment, the Fifth Amendment, the Sixth Amendment. That make you your person and your property. They don't make it, they affirm that it is. Because it's that way naturally, that's God-given, that's natural, that's your rights. The Constitution was only written to affirm it, not to give you any rights. And I've done tons of videos on this. The Constitution gives you nothing. It's just supposed to be a reminder like, okay, this is codified, that these are your rights. Not that I have constitutional rights. I have rights, and the Constitution also says that. And it recognizes that, right? That's the whole point of a Constitution in any country, is to limit the government. So let's go back to the headline. City tears down man's Atlanta house after sending warnings to the wrong address. So when you start going through this story, and you can go here, for example, and there's news videos on this and stuff that's been done on this, and you can see, if I play just a snippet, right? The house was there and they tore it down. It's just gone. Just gone.
Registry as required by law.
You had to register.
He said it's code enforcement notices and orders to the wrong addresses.
Now let me just throw something in here. We're not going to play this whole video because I'll link this video in the comments. For a mainstream Newsies video, it's not too bad because I think it's one of those universal topics that any idiot can agree that the Atlanta City Council are morons. They're assholes. And they have no right to be in any position of power. When you say code enforcement, at least in the US, and I think in most countries in the world, what you actually mean is a criminal syndicate that extorts people by violating their rights, enforcing things without due process of law. Now, I know that's long. Can we do an acronym? Come up for an acronym. A criminal syndicate, crime organization that extorts people using illegal regulations carried out without due process of law. Should we ask a chatbot to create an acronym for this, and then we can change code enforcement to that acronym? Is the only thing I'm thinking. So it gets worse. The city council, the code enforcement guy, this asshole goes out there. And because Atlanta doesn't like vacant houses, right? Now, should there be a process where over maybe 7 years you can notify, you can put a sign like, hey, this house has been abandoned. But no, this wasn't an abandoned house. It was a house that was being remodeled and that nobody was living in. The code enforcement guy didn't like that there was debris on the property and that the door wasn't secured. So he sent a notice to a completely different address, right? So first of all, even if he found a house, even if it was the right address, even if the notices were to the right address, let's get this straight. We have code enforcement that has the authority to invade someone's private property, determine that it's not in compliance with regulations that make the city pretty enough for the kings that rule it, and then can send in a bulldozer to tear down that house after sending out a few letters to you. No trial, no due process, absolute decimation of your property with zero trial, zero due process, when that property is not actually hurting or damaging anyone. Now, if that property was leaking toxic sewage to all the neighbors' houses and they couldn't find the owner and they had to go in and do something about it, maybe you could make a case, right? You cannot make up the level of stupidity of these city councils. It's not like this is limited to the Atlanta City Council, but Atlanta City Council, you are incredibly stupid. And you have no business being in any seat of authority whatsoever. Imagine if you did this, right? So they go in there, the house that they were sending notices to, okay? It gets worse as you go through these things. The house they were sending notices to was in a different zip code. Here's the house, right? And on the right here is just the vacant property. There's been a few videos done on this. Like Dr. Rashid Ritchie did one. This news site did one. This was WSB. Who is this from? Channel 2 Action News did a video on this. That was actually not too bad. I'll link to that on YouTube here. That's the one here. So what happened is, obviously, this guy didn't receive these notices saying, "Oh, we're gonna tear down your freaking house because there's some debris on the property." Can you believe the level of a society that tolerates? Guys, here's the problem. If the letters had been delivered, that wouldn't have made tearing down the house any more justified. You don't get to destroy someone else's property simply because you're an elected official. Since when did our world, our country, get the idea that when you have an elected position, you get elected to a position and you're sworn to defend and uphold the Constitution, which overrides all civil and municipal codes, and respect people's rights and protect the people, and instead you think you can just make up crap every day to control people's lives and destroy their lives, lock them in prisons, destroy their property, steal their stuff, give it away to police departments, sell it on the open market, and pocket the money. That's not a government. That's not a government, that's despotism. That's not upholding the law. That's not, oh, we have to have it, otherwise there will be chaos. That is chaos. These assholes make it up as they go. And if this guy had received the letters, everybody would be saying, oh, well, he should have respected the law. Maybe the idiots calling themselves code enforcers should have respected the law. I wish we had the code enforcer's name. Does it say that? I don't see the code enforcer's name. I'm guessing he's not wanting to come out. But we do have the Atlanta City Council right here. Here's all these peaches right here looking all diverse and pretty in their suits, while what? They go and tear down your house. And yeah, to top it all off, they billed him for the demolition of his own house. They were sending notices to a different zip code that were then being returned to sender. So imagine if you went in, like you sent a letter, right? Or I sent a letter, like I'm coming into your property and I'm going to blow it up, and you have 3 months to get your stuff out. And like, oh, I sent a letter. It's okay. It's fine. I sent a letter. Imagine if like this idea that you control every aspect of people's lives, right? And this is how government thinks. Government thinks they control every aspect of people's lives. And so when this guy tried to file a claim, the city council, what did they say? The council, let me see if I can do my councilman voice. I gotta get in council mode here. Because I did run for Congress, okay? So I practice speech making. You guys, a lot of you have seen me live, right? I mean, let's get the council mode going. Through deep deliberation, and I've talked with all my colleagues about this because it is a very serious matter. It's really important that we respect people's property rights, that we respect their boundaries, and that we respect this beautiful city. Okay, here comes the quote. But the council has determined that the city cannot accept responsibility for this matter, and therefore cannot pay this claim. Next item on the agenda. All right, so imagine being these a-holes and sitting in your little round room of whatever the Atlanta City Council looks like. You sent dudes through your absolute moron of a code enforcement officer who's a job holder who makes his living harassing other people for nothing in a way that does not improve our society in any way. This fool who's your employee, sends a bulldozer to tear down some random house that was perfectly fine, that was hurting no one, because you saw debris on the property. Because you saw debris on the property. Now just let that sink in for just a second. Breathe it in. There was debris on the property. So you tore down the dude's house. You didn't send him any notifications because you were so stupid that you were not even sending mail to notify him of a problem that you had that you wanted to screw him over for. You were sending it to a different zip code. And then you're the city who did this, and imagine, so you investigate yourself. With this council, this council has determined that the city cannot accept responsibility for this matter, and therefore we cannot pay this claim. Ikiba, more wine. I mean, that's how I envisioned this happening. I might be slightly exaggerating. I doubt these people are actually capable of the facial expressions that I'm representing to you. And these stories, you keep seeing these stories. And yes, ATB, this story is not believable, and yet it is, because this is what our government is doing to people. The police are literally the biggest thieves in monetary dollars of all other theft groups. They have the highest numbers. Our prisons in the US are full of more people, most of them without due process. I have people I know that have been in jail on trumped up charges since before COVID started, and they haven't given them a trial. We're talking 3 years. These are people within my family circle. Because they don't even have evidence to go to trial. They just leave them in jail. And this is what's going on. You have people like Jeff Winehouse, Schaefer Cox, Leonard Peltier. And if you don't like it, the feds will hunt you down, kill your family, and lock you away like they did at Waco, like they did at Ruby Ridge. This isn't a republic in the United States. It's a regime. Now, is that to say that you can go to the next country over and it's better? Well, yes, it's better. There's less extreme things. These extreme things you don't see as often in Mexico, but does it mean that the corruption isn't there and that they won't screw you over? Absolutely not. Because the governments are the same all across the world. They are the vilest and the lowest, and they get together in suits and they walk around with toasting glasses and shaking people's hands in the city. And when you try to be the activist and say, wait, you're robbing babies and killing our families, they say, now, you need to use more polite words. We're trying to make this city a nice place. And the society is so mind-bogglingly ignorant that they say, you're just, Gavin, Frank, Jim, you're just making trouble. Why don't you try to get along? Go to the city council meeting and talk to the masters. Petition them. Gavin, we need the town. We don't want people talking bad about the town. You know how many times I've heard this, even here in Mexico? You don't want people talking bad about the town. The president of the county doesn't like what you're saying, Gavin. I've actually heard this even down here in Mexico. The president told me he doesn't like what you're saying, Gavin. You need to just back off a little bit and just let the town do its thing. And I'm tired of it because I can't fight it on my own. I can't fix it because no one across the world, everyone has been so conditioned. We've been so dumbed down and ignorant. It's as if, imagine if you hired me, right? I'm like this guy on the council. You hire me, maybe I'm a contractor on the side because I have the connections, right? That's how you do it when you're on the council. Imagine you hire me to build a house for you, and you pay me a large portion of the money in advance, and I go to the property and I build a doghouse. And I say, here you go. And you're like, I didn't order that. And I'm like, oh, you don't like the doghouse? Well, that violates my policy. And I burn down the doghouse. And then I send you a bill for the gas and the operator of the flamethrower. And I keep the money that you paid me to build the house. That's the Atlanta City Council. That's your police. That's your municipal bodies. That's your state legislators. That's the government you have. And you won't fix it by running for office. I'm not saying it's always bad to do that. I've done that. It started great conversations. But a politician or becoming one of them isn't going to fix it, because they're going to make sure that you're not allowed to become one of them until you will mold to them. What you do is you love your neighbor enough to stand up for them, and you stand beside them and you say no. And you stop being cowards. And you stop saying, well, you know what? It's not my problem. I'm going to mind my own business. No, it's your business to stand up against people who are burning your country to the ground and robbing you blind. And that's what government does. And until you say no, government will always exist. There's no way around it. Government's always going to reform in some form or another. It may start out with good intentions to protect the community, and it will continue to grow through people's complacency and laziness and corruption to be more and more corrupt. And so what it means, there's no like, oh, eventually we're going to fix it and then the world's going to be great. You will always, always, always have to say no. You will have to fight, but we can't do it alone. I got tired of fighting alone in the U.S. and realizing I'm just going to end up in a prison or dead like the rest of them. Until people are willing to unite as communities and say no. Most people don't do it here, but it happens. There's been entire counties down here that have united against the corrupt government, literally thrown the police, the government, and the cartels out of their county. And the federal government officials, the state government officials, and the police are not even allowed in the county. And it's run by the people. Now, does that mean there's no corruption there? Of course not. Because when something is run by the people, inherently there's some form of government. But my point is, when people say no to rulers and to the government, and say yes to caring about their neighbors, to putting themselves on the line to defend their neighbor who's getting their door kicked in, and saying, wait, what's happening here? And when the community surrounds the violators, the rapists, and the thieves that in this era have come to be called government, military, and police, that would be how we would make change. And that's all I have to say. Atlanta City Council is just an example of the unmitigated stupidity combined with unrestrained corruption and zero accountability that we see flooding the United States and spreading across the world. All right, peace, you guys. You have a good night. Crazy town. Take care. Put a marker here so I know where to cut later. All right? What time is it? We haven't been going too long. All right. That's the end of the official show. Okay? I'm not sure of the Mexico City elevation. I don't live there, but it is very high. I'm very high. I think I'm at about 7,000 feet here, and it's 90 degrees. Well, it's not 90 degrees now. It's 10:30 at night, so it's probably outside. It's probably 75, and feels just about perfect. So yeah, did I express myself well enough? I know the algorithm won't do anything with this video because the guys in suits doing news stories are what the algorithm wants. But sometimes I have to vent. And so for those of you here, I thank you. And I will cut this out. I'll cut the main segment because I think this was a relevant topic today. I'll cut it out. And I'll post it to the channel, and you can share it tomorrow if you want. It's just crazy. So yeah, it's late. And I only go a half hour. After a half hour, you got to pay with super chats. I know is that culero? Can I say culero? Do you know what culero? Who in the chat knows what culero means? So if no one knows, I can probably say it. But thank you all for being here. I don't know. I try to educate and vent, and I'm as imperfect as the next guy. And I am trying to learn to be more patient and to know how to decide when to be aggressive and when to calm down and how extreme the situation is. But people have to say, no. And I tell that to my Mexicano friends. I'm like, no, you don't understand that the most powerful word for government is no. And it does work. Even on a small level, it works. You don't know how many times I've just said that if I come to a checkpoint here and police say, "Oh, we want to look in your car," I say no. And they're like, "What?" And I'm like, "No, you're not looking in my car. That's my property. You have no right to look in it." And they don't. The police have never searched my car. I have never given a bribe. Now, that's not to say that I never would if it would get me out of a situation to give somebody $20 to leave me alone, because police are still criminals here as well. But it's crazy. And yeah, you look at people like Josh Martinez, like what they did to the Bundys. And it doesn't matter. You can look at people from the Black Lives Matter groups, from the Native American movements, from the conservative patriot movements, from the libertarian, from the left, that are trying to stand up. And maybe they're doing it in a way you agree with, and maybe they're not. But who, in the end, they turn us one against the other. They say, "Oh, look at them, they're rioting. Oh, look at them, they're lighting fires in the streets. They're criminals, they're rioters." The real rioters, criminals, and terrorists are always the government. It's always the police. And it has been for as long as I can remember. But in recent years, it's a completely different level. And we're seeing that through the power of synchronized governing bodies like Facebook. And that's what Facebook is a third-party body that works with the government to give the government, thanks YouTube turns. All right, I'll go for a few more minutes, but not past 11. That works with government. Places like Twitter, places like, okay, now we can say, "Oh, Elon bought Twitter," but he's just running it into the ground with like stupid, like you have to pay monthly subscriptions and stuff like that, because Twitter was never a profitable company, even right here on YouTube. But I would say probably the worst offender is Facebook, in enabling this synchronization of corruption across the world that allows propaganda to be merged into everyone's minds at virtually the same time in their native language across the planet. That's how the virus was allowed to be perpetrated. I still don't even say the words because we'll get censored. And that's what happens. And yeah, we have auditors in prison. Like, I don't even remember all the names. If you guys didn't catch the recent video I just did on Jeff Winehouse, check it out. I mean, you have these people like Rick Gerber. What did they give him, like 50 years on just trumped up financial? They took him to trial like 4 times. They couldn't get a conviction at trial. So they just kept charging him again for the same crime until they finally convicted him and gave him like 40, 50 years in prison. And it really hurts me because I told them, I tell people, like, when it's on your ass like this, get out. Don't wait. Don't think the courts are going to do you a good turn. It's one thing if you're fighting a small thing and, like, if you lose, yeah, you're just going to get screwed over a little. But when they're looking to take your life, you guys, and everything you have, your family, take you away from your family, your kids, forever. Don't wait. Please don't wait. Go somewhere. Doesn't have to be Mexico, but get out. And I left when I did because I had that feeling. My family had the feeling. A lot of you guys had that feeling. And there's some people that still mock me for leaving. Oh, Gavin was a coward. He ran away like they weren't going to do anything. But they were. Because I was causing more trouble than they liked. And we've seen that with some of our auditors. You got to tread really carefully. I admire a lot of the auditors like Freeman and a lot of these guys up there. Some of them are more aggressive than my style. But I think it's so cool that years ago, like when I started, it was extreme to be filming all the time. And people like auditors and other activists over time have made that just more and more normal. And even in Mexico, it's not that normal. Yeah, everybody has a smartphone and most things are filmed. But just walking around into offices and stuff, filming everybody, like even if you fit in with the culture here, they would really try and screw with you, just like they do to us in the States still here. But I don't try to do that level of activism here because I'm still the outsider. I still don't speak the language on a native level. And the point is, I'm not seen as a native here. And so most of the people actually blame, when I do activism here, and this happened in the States too, there's people, maybe more people that support me here, but on a news sense, on a Facebook news sense, the trolls are still hot and heavy, right? The government worshipers are still there. I don't see them on the street near as much. I see a lot more people I don't see the police worship here to the same level. But yeah, I mean, they just keep stealing and violating and robbing. And all the sheep just say, oh, they're just protecting our community. It's just casualties of protecting the community. Maybe there's a few people in prison that are innocent. And I'm like, a few? Do you realize most of the people in jail have never even been given a trial? One of the most fundamental things. One of the reasons that we tried to make a republic. But we founded it on corruption too. We thought we were better because we were Europeans and we could just take all the native stuff and make it our own. You can't found justice. You can't build a house, a republic of justice, on a foundation of violence and corruption and theft. It doesn't work. And we've seen that now. The USA is a failed experiment. Because instead of being humble and treating all men equal, like our Declaration said, we didn't treat all men equal. This group was treated one way, that group was treated one way, this group was treated another way, and we tolerated that. And we tolerated that classism. And so if there's anything I have to say, it's, don't wait. And yeah, people sometimes say, oh, I can come to Mexico. And I'm like, okay, but you need to be prepared, right? You're not gonna get a job down here and make good money to the level that you're used to, right? So you need to have an entrepreneurial idea. You need to have an online business, or you need to have some money stored away so you can get your feet under you. Now, there's other countries you can go that are more European and they're less transition, maybe more English-speaking countries. Honestly, there's a lot of places you can flee to that actually are members of the International Refugee Pact. So Mexico is pretty open in who it gives refugee status to. Even people that have done like political violence and things like that. But actually they're a member of an International Refugee Pact, which of course the US is not a member of. That's why they always treat immigrants and refugees like trash. But there's a lot of countries all over the world that actually are members of that refugee status pact. And if you had to get out of the US, you could choose. But don't wait till the last minute to where they're tracking your card or where you can't get on an airplane. Do it before it's too late. I left a lot of stuff behind, but I left the US when I could still get in my car, hook up my trailer, load it with all the crap I could carry, and go on vacation and then decide what to do next. And I left the assholes in the Grant County courts who've been ruining people's lives for decades while wearing their stupid suits and their smug looks, thinking that they're better, that they're important, when they're just snot-nosed assholes controlling and destroying people's lives to fill their own pockets. I didn't wait for them to give me permission. It didn't matter what the charges were and the level of the charges. I said, screw you. I'm not showing up in your court anymore. And I'm also not staying here because I know you'll come get me with guns. So bye. And I know that to this day, they're still pissed off. I still have regular dreams of being in Grant County and they're chasing me, which is exactly what they would do if I went back. I've had family members that were down here and went up to the U.S. with cars with Mexican plates, and they were immediately pulled over because they were hoping that it was Gavin. And so with 100% certainty, if I went back, I would be in a cell. And I can't even count the number of times I've had dreams where for some stupid reason I needed to go back there and I was up there and I have these reoccurring, they're not the same dream, but it's different things. Like I'm trying to avoid them. I'm keeping it on the down low, but then somebody sees me that knows me and I wonder if they're going to report me. It's a weird feeling to describe because even though I wasn't Ay. No manches, güey. Te quiero sin batería como un pinche estúpido. ¿Qué te pasa? Ush. Ay, chingame. Ah, ya. Ya. Ya regreso. Aquí estamos. Ya terminó. Ay, caramba. I'm back. That was unprofessional. I told you I was going to be professional today. But I don't know that I've been professional today. But maybe. But maybe I was factual. Maybe I was a little bit entertaining. And yeah. They were going to do something to me, that's for sure. And I wasn't waiting around for it. And since then, I've seen so many people. It hasn't been an easy transition, I'll admit that. Like, it's very different down here. And it's, especially the past few years, like, online businesses have been struggling. Money's been tight. It's been harder. The YouTube algorithms have basically made my channel not very popular unless I'm doing just crazy things because that's what they want. But every time I have a dream about being back there and I'm reminded of what they would actually do if I was there. Because these aren't good people. The Pat Kennedys and the judges and the city councils and the county commissioners, these aren't people that respect other people. These are people that respect power and money, and that those without that toe the line and obey, or we put them down. And that's exactly what they do in Grant County. There's so many videos, and they say, "Oh, look at the happy-go-lucky Canfield police officer that tolerated Gavin when he pulled him over for having an unmarked car, even though he was violating the law in the first place." No, that very same officer, I have uploaded videos of him laughing and joking while they killed a man. Did anyone care? No, that didn't go viral because that wasn't entertaining enough. That was too real, and that's the problem. That's the problem. And the government should feel threatened. The police should feel threatened. Even though my style wasn't to threaten anybody, I don't want to use violence. I don't want to get in fights. Now down here, that is what they do with cops, right? I mean, the cops screw people over, but the people will also just flat out lay the cops out. And this is why the cops are still, despite the corruption, way more in check down here. Because if you got a group of 5 guys in a car and a cop's trying to screw with him, they'll just leave, or they'll punch him in the nose and go on their way if they get too irritated. So the cops usually just leave those alone. Who the cops mess with is people alone, women, and poor workers and families who are just trying to get their job done and not lose their job, kind of thing. So they're parasites, just like the U.S. cops, but the classism of it shows more down here. They're the lowest of the low that can't hold a real job, also like U.S. cops. They can't have a productive job in society, so they get a job where they can try and easily extort people. And that's what cops are in Mexico as well, as a general rule. I looked for years for a good cop in the U.S., and I would like to hope maybe one exists in Mexico, but I rather am skeptical of that as well, because we see that cops are blood-sucking cockroaches, just like politicians, that live through violence off the suffering of the poor. That's what police do. That's what government does. They don't protect people. They're cockroaches. And people have to say no. And I've been saying that. Yeah, I've also been saying that, Florecita, since like 2011, somewhere in there, when I started doing all this. And so it was a journey that took my life in directions that was not exactly what I planned, to say the least. And there's moments when that's hard. There's a cost to that. And so you have to count that cost. But if you at least stand beside your neighbor and say, no, not everybody is going to be an activist out there in their face all the time. But if people together would just start saying no, it would make all the difference in the world. So, all right, you guys, it's late. It's about 11 here. I think I've done my business here for tonight. I'm gonna end the stream. I'm gonna and then go back later and cut this video out. And tomorrow I will post our main topic from this video. And for those of you that were here in the live stream tonight, thank you for being here. And I hope that maybe you got something out of it. I always hope over the years that maybe these videos have some effect, and oftentimes I think that maybe nothing that I've been able to do has really made much of a difference, because the government just keeps plowing over people, and 99% of the people do nothing. And at the end, you can't just fight. You have to love your neighbor. You have to forgive. But most of all, you have to stand up for other people. If you stand up for other people more than yourself, then you'll change the world. But that's the hardest thing to do. It really is. All right, you guys, thanks for being here. Peace out. Love your neighbor. Watch your step. Watch your back with Blue ISIS out there on the streets, wherever you are in the world. And we'll see you on the next one. And this next month, hopefully I can do a few more videos. Good to see you all in there. Shout out to everybody in our live stream. We'll see you next time.